pay my respects to elders past and present and acknowledge any Aboriginal people here with us today. So thank you very much for coming. And I'll just note that there will be an audio-visual recording is being made of the meeting. So all persons attending the meeting are to be respectful of and considerate towards other persons attending the meeting. Language and conduct at the meeting that could be perceived as offensive, defamatory or threatening to a person attending the meeting or listening to the recording is not acceptable. So thank you very much. There are, as you can see, the Mayor is not here, so I'm deputising today. I'm Hugh McKenzie, for those in the room who don't know, the Deputy Mayor. There are no mayoral acknowledgements. Do we have any declarations of interest? You just closed. I'll just disclose in the closed agenda 23.6, which is councillor leave. Item number 4 is confirmation of minutes. Would somebody like to move the minutes of the previous meeting? Councillor Britton, seconder. Councillor Priest. All those in favour? All councillors present. Minutes carried. Council workshops. Council workshop report on the 30th of July 2026. Somebody like to move that be received? Councillor Harris, seconder. Councillor Walker. Anything to discuss on those? Okay, I'll put those. All those in favour, say hands up, please. All councillors present. Right. Councillors leave with notice, leave of absence. That'll be dealt with in closed council. Committee reports, there are none. Questions from the members of public. 8.1, questions on notice by members of the public. They've been answered in the responses there, other than the ones from Mr Smith, which were arrived late and will be answered in the next council meeting. So now questions on notice questions without notice from the public. Is there anybody? Thank you. Come forward and please state your name and address.
My name is Robert. I live in Ravenswood in Launceston.
Yep.
I've got just 3 questions for the council. Does the Launceston City Council have any plans to assist the LGBT community in the next 12 months? Do I just ask you a question and keep going, or I've never done this before, so.
No, that's right. No, we'll just take that on notice, because the answer is I know we do certain things in there, but to give you a fulsome answer, we'll give you a written report back at the next council meeting.
Okay. Would there be any chance that we could have a flagpole erected as not just specifically for the LGBT people, but as other community groups like Cancer Walk, Beyond Blue, pieces like that, where they can have their own flagpole, where we can raise our own flag?
Is this in Ravenswood?
No, in town.
In the town. There's a process that needs to go through with flagpoles, but again, I'll take that on notice and give you a formal reply back on that.
Okay. And would there be any possibility we could have a rainbow crossing in Launceston?
Again, I'll take that on notice as well. It may well require that you actually put an application in for something like that. As to where you would like to put that, so that we've got some context around how you'd like that to be done, so that it can be considered properly.
Yeah, it's the only reason I'm sort of asking the question, because Pride Month wasn't celebrated in Launceston because obviously the Pride flags were destroyed, which only sets people backwards.
Yeah.
We need to be more visible in the community, and I think having a rainbow crossing would be good for Launceston, and plus it would be a major tourism venue, because nowhere else in Tasmania's got one.
Okay, well, thank you for that notion. We'll come back with a response to that, but there may be required for further information to sort of explore that further if that's something that we think is appropriate.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions without notice? Okay, if not, 9 petitions, there are no petitions. 10 deputations, there are no deputations. So we now move on to 11, which is Planning Authority. So under the provisions of the Land Use Planning Approvals Act 1993, Council acts as a planning authority in regard to items included in agenda item 11, Planning Authority. And 11.1 is DA 0257/206 781 East Tamer Highway, Dilston, Resource Development, Construction of Buildings and Infrastructure for a turf farm retrospective. I do have some speakers that are here, and I've got Frank Archer as the first one. And just Frank, for your 2 minutes is the length time.
Absolutely. Mr Mayor and fellow councillors, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Frank Archer and I reside at 781 East Home Highway and am a Director of Landfall Turf, the company responsible for this development application. The past 6 to 8 months have been a challenging period for our business, our employees and me personally. I would like to briefly provide some context around the timeline of events that has brought us here today. When we commenced development of the turf farm, I was unaware that a development application was required for a change of use of the land. My understanding was influenced by the fact that an existing turf farm had previously been established on agricultural land owned by our family back in 2018. I was therefore naive to the implications of the rural living zoning at Dilston. On the very day I was notified by Launceston City Council that a development application was required, I engaged our planning consultant Rebecca Green to assist us through the process. Since that time, I have followed all directions and requirements provided by Council's compliance officers from the planning team. I would also like to acknowledge the inconvenience experienced by members of the community as a result of excessive dust generated during earthworks and cultivation activities. That situation was regrettable, and for that I sincerely apologise to those affected. Put simply, I have made mistakes during this process and I accept responsibility for them. However, we learned a great deal from these experiences and I will use those lessons to ensure we make better informed decisions in the future. My family has a long history of contributing positively to the welfare and prosperity of this community. In 2026, we will celebrate 150 years of farming at Landfall. Throughout that time, our family has remained committed not only to our farming enterprises, but also to being responsible community members and good neighbours. That commitment remains as strong today as it has been for generations. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Ryan Smith.
Ryan Smith, I reside in Youngtown. I'm here representing the Tasmanian Sports Surf Managers Association today. The Tasmanian Sports Surf Managers Association is strongly favourable to landfall turf. Currently in the region there is no supplier of instant turf, and also for the opportunity to educate apprentices, sports surf managers, having seminars out on these farms, the opportunity for apprentices to go to landfall turf and understand the growings of a turf farm will be hugely beneficial to our industry moving forward. Growing turf species that are currently not available within Tasmania. There's only the south that have got a turf farm at the moment. So more turf species that can be utilised throughout the state, and also with obviously all the sports fields that are going on at the moment is beneficial for that moving forward. Thanks very much.
Thank you. John Bailey.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Councillors, I'll just...
Name and address, John, please.
I'm sorry?
Just name your name, because for recording purposes, name and address.
John Bailey, Dilston. We would probably be the closest residents to landfall, and I am 86 years of age. I've had far more experience than anybody in this room of living next door to neighbours, and Frank Archer would probably be the best neighbour I have ever lived next to. So he's extremely good with everything he does with his neighbourly people. I don't know if that's just me in particular, but I know I get any problems with a fence, with sheep that are out, Frank is there to help. So I'm just supporting Frank with his venture, and I can't understand how anybody could oppose anybody growing grass. I think it's a magnificent effort. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Bev Ernst.
Bev Ernst, 295 John Lees Drive. So I'm right opposite the turf farm as it stands at the moment. I just want to say thanks to Frank for acknowledging the issues that were significant at the beginning with the dust and all of that. So I just wanted to comment about Ian's report, the planner, when he states that there's no loss of amenity with the turf farm going in, because there actually has been and will be significant loss of amenity when you live right opposite. The loss of amenity relates to, and I'm sure you all understand rural living B, the loss of amenity relates to potential spray drift, noise of farm machinery, turf farm equipment, I should say, it's not farm machinery, and traffic, which is the most significant issues. Spray drift, as we know, there's chemicals in terms of turf farms. We're all aware of the link now with Parkinson's, MND, multiple myeloma, etc. So in other jurisdictions, there's a buffer zone recommended and enforced in New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, of 100 metres between turf farm activities and residences, and it's there for a reason. There's no such buffer zone included in the current proposal. There has been, thankfully, Ian has acknowledged the vegetation issue and talked about native vegetation, which is great, but if you look at Bridie White's submission, she has found a list of of plants done in Victoria that also minimise spray drift. So I'd request that the council have a look at that and acknowledge that the spray drift could be a potential problem, and noise and dust, and think about what sort of planting it needs to be. The loss of amenity will be also significant in terms of heavy vehicle movements, because and the siting of the sheds, which will be basically pretty much opposite my place. So at 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. there'll be machinery going in and going out. So that's also a loss of amenity as far as I'm concerned. So I would request that the council delay making a decision today, because I think there hasn't been enough community consultation, and 2 minutes is really not enough for such a significant and complex issue.
Thanks, Bev. Bev Gale.
Hi, my name is Bev Gale. I live on John Lees Drive, right across from the proposed turf farm. Bev Ernst has stolen my thunder, but I just wanted to reiterate that I am concerned for safety. There's a lot of traffic already. I was behind a couple of trucks the other day, and I would like the council to look at the impact of the trucks going up and down our street, which isn't really wide enough for 2 lanes and trucks passing in both directions. But my biggest concern is chemical drift. I'm living in the country where I bought a place 25 years ago for the clean air, and I'm really concerned about the drift and the impact of chemicals on my health. I think that's something, as a resident, I have the right to expect. I don't have anything against turf farms, but I do want to be healthy, and I want my family to be healthy. I do think that there should be enough of a buffer, but I also would like, before anything starts, to have a hedge in place that grows fast and protects us so that the drift doesn't come into my household, so that I can't go outside, I can't open the windows. I'm sure that all of you who live near there would appreciate that, and I would like council to take the time to consider that before things proceed. Things have been proceeding quite quickly. Thank you.
Thanks very much. They're the only listed speakers I've got. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on the matter? Yep.
Good afternoon, Council and visitors. My name is Jonathan Cecil, and thank you very much. I live at 279 John Lees Drive, which is directly opposite the turf farm. I don't honestly know what the chemical aspects are, and I don't claim to, but there's an orchard just down the road which uses fertilizers and all sorts of things, and to my knowledge, there's been no damage caused by those chemicals to any human beings or wallabies or whatever. When I drive out of my drive, I look directly at the turf farm, and it's a very benign and attractive looking paddock, and I really can't see how anyone could object to a very green and verdant flat paddock with turf on it, which is very attractive to look at, a lovely shade of green. And I personally have no objection at all to the plan. Frank Archer was kind enough to hold a meeting of the residents, and we all put our points of view. And as I said, I don't want to take too long, but I think it's actually a very good project, and I wish Frank all the best with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other speakers? Okay, if not, we have a decision to be making, and the recommendation from the officers are that in accordance with section 51 and 57 of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 and the Tasmanian Planning Scheme Launceston, a permit be granted for DA 2057/2026, resource development construction of the building and infrastructure for a turf farm retrospective at 781 East Tamar Highway, Dilston, subject to the following conditions which are in the papers that are there. I could have a move for the motion. Councillor Priest, second Councillor Harris. First, before we go on to questions, is there any questions anyone has? Councillor Britton.
Thank you. Just hearing the concerns from representatives, can we get just some clarification around the 100-metre buffer zone? Does that exist here? Do we have that? And then following on from that, in terms of the chemicals used, what sort of A, does it necessarily apply to the planning scheme, but B, do we understand how those are going to be mitigated along with the dust as well?
Yeah, sure. So the planning scheme is silent when it comes to attenuation for chemical spray. We do know that it is, an operator still needs to abide by relevant legislation and policy and to the relevant authority. So in Tasmania, that's the Department of Natural Resources, as well as the Australian Pesticides and Veterinarian Medicines Authority. So they do have a requirement and obligation to monitor spray when it's in proximity to sensitive uses.
Councillor Priest, was it you wanted to ask a question? Councillor Harris?
Yeah, thank you. Did you answer the question about the 100-metre buffer zone?
Sorry, so under the planning scheme, there is no buffer zone.
To follow that one up, how far is the area being cultivated for turf from the houses on the other side of the highway? Old highway, I should say. At a guess, I'm not going to...
From the actual turf farm growing area, it's approximately 50 metres from that area to the boundary of the residential properties on John Lees Drive.
Thank you. I do have a question, and I thank Mr Archer for his comments at the start, where he has acknowledged that why he had started, perhaps without having a DA, because I can actually remember that we had created, or we got a local farmer, didn't realise it was the Archers, to grow the turf that is on UTAS Stadium. How did that come to be without a planning authority, or was it done perhaps with his father or someone else of the family that a DA would have been done for that, or wasn't one required?
Yeah, so when that occurred at the time, that was on a different title. This is currently zoned Rural Living B. The zoning on that area of land where the turf was grown was rural, which didn't require planning approval.
Okay, so no other questions? Councillor Priest is the mover of the motion.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Thank you for the speakers today. So, as was sent by Frank Archer, this is a retrospective development. It is in a rural living zone portion of the title. We've talked about the fact that the turf is used for sports and recreation. I was lucky enough to attend a market on Saturday with Councillor Kai also, so had a great chance to have a look at the lie of the land, the distance between the road. We also visited the previous Thursday as a council to have a look at the site. There's a 1 kilometre hedge, long hedge for screening with a setback. You can see the location and neighbourhood character of this portion of the land on page 23 of the document that councillors were provided. You can see that there's multiple overlays over the large land holding. The site forms part of your view when you're driving into Launceston from the north. We've looked at conditions for the sheds and setbacks for the sheds and a non-reflective surface. So when you're driving into Launceston from the north, you aren't being hit by shiny surfaces and things like that. That will also help to retain the scenic value in that road corridor. The property has historically been used for what I would say farmland is used for. You would grow grass to feed your cattle. The report says that growing grass for turf is consistent to the rural living zone, and you can also see, councillors, in our document that it talks about the discretionary uses. It's answered the vehicle movements and the local heritage codes. Mr. Archer has talked about his previous ploughing or processing of the fields and the dust issue that surrounding neighbours had experienced, and it is my understanding now that there will be a dust mitigation strategy. Also, in relation to the chemical storage on the property, it will obviously have to display and operate under a policy regarding pesticides and chemical storage and usage, and also with the policies and guidelines around spraying. So I recommend this to the rest of the councillors, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you all have to say about this development. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Bruce. Councillor Harris is the seconder.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Yes, I stand to support the development application. Yes, it will have an impact somewhat on what is currently there. The grass, as it's growing at the moment, you don't notice because it's just the grass and that's beside the highway. As it gets harvested as a crop, I guess we would say, in the future, you will notice then there will be a large area of bare earth, at which point a few months later one imagines the grass will grow back and another crop will be planted. It is important that Tasmania does have its own turf. We are unable to import turf from the mainland because of the potential to our environment risk of bringing in earth plugs, if you like. That's why you have to buy your plants bare-rooted and many other reasons. And as such, the actual provision of a turf farm in Tasmania, and particularly northern Tasmania, is to our advantage, not only for the reasons identified.
Can we stick to the planning aspects of this, please, Councillor Harris?
No problem. When we come to the planning scheme, some people are concerned about the spraying. I think the prevailing northwesterly winds will in fact take any spray that is applied, and they are controlled by the state government code. We'll probably take it in fact away from the houses and more towards the existing new highway. And of course, the John Lees Drive was in fact the highway to Georgetown and Bell Bay for many, many years, and as such is somewhat overbuilt for what is now just an access road for some houses and some rural properties as well. There is some distance of them that are there, all on the one side of the road, but the road itself is actually of quite a good standard and has passing lanes where that would not normally be the case if it had not been the major highway. So amongst everything else that Councillor Priest has said, I think that this is a good development, and I encourage others to support it. Thank you.
Any other speakers? Councillor Walker.
Thank you, and I apologise, Chair, but I would like to ask a couple of questions, if I may. Sure. Missed that opportunity earlier. I noticed there's at least one condition that's being put on the DA. Could you just go through that would be, I'm relying on a computer that's sort of frozen on me, so I'm just getting back to it. There was a condition. Oh, you've got it there. I'll skip that one for now. First of all, I'll start with the existing vegetation on the site, because of course we're talking about a small area of the entire lot. It's a small area between of the title between the John Lees Drive and the highway, modern highway. So the existing trees are in that area that would be subject to this approval today. Do they have any sort of long-term protection?
Scenic overlay.
Beg your pardon?
Scenic overlay.
Yeah, they do. So I'm just wanting that clarified.
Yeah, so due to the previous occupation and use of the site, vegetation removal is exempt from requiring planning permit.
Look, I'll just speak to the motion, thanks. There's a couple of others there, but I'm lost my place, unfortunately. Look, I can well imagine the first day, if this is approved today, that Mr Archer goes to do some work. The wind will be blowing from a different direction and we'll all hear about it, no doubt. And this, there is a challenge between having residential housing and agricultural uses anywhere that this occurs. And I do appreciate the concept that's been brought forward that in some other parts of Australia there are larger attenuation zones, up to 100 metres, because these activities, while probably quite similar to other farming practices really, the application of fertiliser or urea, ploughing, dust and things like that, it's all fairly normal, and a lot of those activities could occur on this land already as an existing, being used as an existing agricultural site. However, this particular use is outside that existing use and therefore needs this application today. I look at it and I think there is nothing in our planning scheme, and that might be to the detriment of our planning scheme, that precludes this from advancing today. I appreciate the Archers, and especially Frank Archer, who I've had dealings with previously, has always made that effort to communicate, and he also has a big business to run, and this is what he has chosen to do on this land, and that's not really for us to decide today. It's only to decide whether there's anything in the planning scheme that would preclude that. And from my understanding of the scheme, there is nothing. I would like to think that the proponent will make extra efforts to create that screening at an early stage. And if that is, I think the condition was the native vegetation along the fence in actual fact. It's come back to me now. So, and quite often native vegetation can take longer to grow than certain other species. So I'd like to think that there's the opportunity there to get a quick win as well as a long-term win in terms of that side of the farm. I'd like to also think that there will be ongoing consideration of the residents there, and I'm sure there will be. I note that it's a discretion for truck movements to be starting at 7 a.m. on a Saturday, for example. Now, I'm not sure exactly the reasons why that would be required, but nonetheless, that is a discretion, and that also should be something that is handled carefully by the proponent to be cognizant of the fact that you've really got houses 50 metres away or less from that activity. So they're the types of things that the planning scheme does address, and I think in this case they do address them. I take the point that there might be more that the Tasmanian planning scheme has to consider in these types of activities, but unfortunately that doesn't exist as an option for us today. I just sincerely appreciate the fact that this community has come together to discuss this, and while it might not be an ideal resolution for everyone, that is the nature of having these somewhat disparate zones next door to each other. And while there might be a long-term, because the zone is not going to change, so there might be a long-term outcome where eventually that does become housing. At the moment, this is the chosen use.
Deal with the facts and what we're dealing with today.
At the moment, this is the use, and I'll be voting to support it. Thank you.
Councillor Pentridge.
Having not made up my mind about being re-elected, so I don't have to talk for a long time. But
doesn't always work.
I'd like to think that Mr. Archer's credibility shouldn't be questioned. In that it's not being questioned. But we're not in this day and age with chemicals and all the hoo-ha that goes on. I believe the objectors have a genuine concern, but I can assure them, and we've got records that we can share with the objectors. The wind blows that way on a rare occasion, very rarely. And to try and put a bit of humour in what's normally a dull day, I could still be splattered across some of the trees that were in that paddock if the wind was blown the opposite way, the way we're concerned. All the weather comes up the river, 99% of the time. So I think that the residents who are concerned, well, I've been flying for a few years now, and the only time I've nearly come to grief is when I tried to land in that paddock where the thing is, and the wind was definitely not blowing in the direction of the houses. But anyway, someone needs the records. The statistics are there. The dominant weather comes from about 280 degrees down to 360. And I think that the gentleman concerned here, Mr. Archer, I'm pretty sure that he wouldn't be spraying on the day when the wind was blowing excessively, let alone towards the houses. So I'll be supporting it today. I hope the rest of my colleagues do.
I think I heard the officer say there are regulatory controls in spraying anyway, so they need to be conformed to. So any other councillors wishing to speak? Not. Back to you, Councillor Priest, to close. If you wish.
Yep. Thank you, Acting Mayor. Thank you to my fellow councillors for the questions that you've asked and the light that you have also shed on this development application. And thank you very much for the speakers today coming along to talk about the two opposing views. I would like to put it to the vote now. Thank you very much.
Okay, all those councillors in favour, please raise your arms. That's all councillors present. Thank you very much, everyone, for their comments. Just note we now no longer sit as a planning authority. So we'll move on to item 12, which is Mayor's announcements. They've been outlined in the paper for you. I'll just add a couple, even though I'm not the Mayor. Just noting that I attended the Community Champions Awards at the Arc with a couple of other councillors, Councillor Klein, Councillor Priest at least, and Councillor Harris, and the Mayor on the 29th of the 7th, which showed a great outcome for what's going on in communities around the northern suburbs. On the 31st of the 7th, I also officiated and spoke at the Hawthorn Inner Sanctum meeting at the the Sports Garden, and just showed the passion of the Hawthorn supporters, which came out the next day when we went to the game. And last week, earlier this week on Tuesday, I have to say a fantastic presentation by the City of Launceston in regard to our new residents and making them feel at home. Really good morning breakfast where lots of people who've just moved here actually got an opportunity to come and meet each other, meet members of the council, and really, in Loneliness Week, I think it's a fantastic thing that we did and very well received. I think Councillor Colley and Councillor Priest were also at that one as well. A really good event. So any other councillors with any reports? Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I also was at the Hawthorn versus North Melbourne game at UTAS, a much better game than perhaps might have been expected, but it does show the progress being made by the state and federal government on the development of that ground, with the change to the seating, etc., well underway, but still more to be done. I also attended the Council fundraising gala at the Hotel Grand Chancellor that night, and also had the citizenship ceremony on Wednesday the 29th at the Albert Hall, where I think it was meant to be 125, but I think a slightly lesser number of people became citizens, and it proved how the Albert Hall is an ideal venue for such a ceremony. Also, you missed the council information session that you were part of as one of the guest speakers. That happened here in the town hall on Tuesday the 28th, and I also attended the Tas Tourism Conference that same evening around at the Albert Hall as part of what is their conference up at the casino. So a relatively busy social activity, it seems, the last fortnight.
Thanks, Councillor Harris. Councillor Kine.
Thank you. So on the 28th of July, I had the pleasure of attending the UTAS Scholarship Thank You Morning Tea. It was wonderful to catch up with our scholarship recipient, Sophie Colgrave. Sophie is currently studying a Bachelor of Science and plans to add a Bachelor of Teaching next year. I'm incredibly proud of Sophie's achievements and dedication as she has shown while balancing such a busy and demanding lifestyle and schedule. Congratulations to Sophie and all of this year's scholarship recipients, and also thank you to the generous sponsors for their support in creating these valuable opportunities for students in our community. On the 29th of July, in the morning, Mayor Garwood, Deputy Mayor Mackenzie, Councillor Priest and Councillor Harris and myself attended the Community Champions celebration, recognising the incredible work being undertaken by members of the community. There was discussions and conversations which highlighted that strong communities are built when people come together, share ideas and take action. Thank you to Ray from City Mission and everyone who contributed their time, energy, passion to make our communities stronger, more connected and a more welcoming place to live. In that afternoon, all of us again, so Deputy Mayor Mackenzie, Councillors Priest, Harris and myself joined Mayor Garwood at the citizenship ceremony, welcoming 113 new Australian citizens from 27 different countries. The ceremony was both beautiful and meaningful, providing an opportunities for families to create lasting memories during their significant milestone. Congratulations to all conferees on becoming part of our Australian family. On the 1st of August, Councillor Priest and I went to the annual festive winter market at the Dilston Memorial Hall. While it was wonderful to see so many locals supporting the market, it was also bittersweet to learn that this will be the last winter market for the current Windermere Church Forever organisers. These events play such an important role in bringing communities together and showcasing the dedication of local volunteers, makers and community groups. And a big thank you to Fiona Miller for the invite and to June and David Burnett for organising this amazing market. On Monday, Mayor Garwood and I attended the Homelessness Week morning tea here at the Town Hall reception room, hosted by Nick Green and the team from Catholic Care Tasmania. The event brought together housing and homelessness services to share information about the support available to people experiencing hardship, as well as the challenges facing our community. The most powerful part of the morning was hearing from Glenn and Talia, who bravely shared their lived experiences of homelessness. Glenn's message was simple but profound. Don't give up, there is help available, and never lose connection with the people who care about you. These stories resonate deeply with me. 3 years ago, during Homelessness Week, I shared my own experience publicly for the first time. A story of a builder that took our money but not delivered, then goes into liquidation, which resulted with us losing our family home. It was a difficult period that brought financial hardship, anxiety and uncertainty, but it also taught me resilience and the importance of community support. Homelessness can happen to anyone. It does not discriminate. It can affect families, business owners, young people and older Australians alike. Thank you to everyone involved in organising this important event to help break down stigma and remind people that there is always hope. On Tuesday, Councillor Priest and I, including the Deputy Mayor, attended the Welcome to Lonnie new resident morning tea. Were you there? You were there, weren't you? Yes, you spoke. That's right. You did. Yeah, you spoke. Sorry, I forgot. Yes, where we had the greatest pleasure of meeting some of the newest members of our community. It was held as part of There's Room for You in Lonnie, Loneliness Awareness Week. The event provided an opportunity for new residents to learn more about the City of Launceston, meet people and discover the many community groups, activities and social spaces that help make Launceston such a welcoming place to live. With around 1 in 3 Australians experiencing loneliness at some point, initiatives like this are an important reminder of the value of connection and build meaningful relationships within our community. A big thank you to Sarah McCormack and the team in helping shine a light on the importance of social connection during Loneliness Awareness Week. There's always room for you in Lonnie. Yesterday, Councillor Priest and Councillor McMahon and I attended the Homelessness Week walk to raise awareness. I have the honour of representing the City of Launceston and speaking on behalf of the Mayor alongside Rosie and Connie. The walk was a powerful reminder that homelessness is not just about housing, it's about people. It's about ensuring everyone has access to safety, dignity, connection and hope. I want to acknowledge the extraordinary work of local service providers such as St Vincent de Paul Society, who has been operating in Tasmania for 126 years and have organised this event in collaboration with City Mission, the Salvation Army and the City of Launceston. Tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m, join us just outside at the Civic Square for Homeless Action Now 2026. This event is a fantastic opportunity to connect with local services and organisations dedicated to supporting those experiencing homelessness, addressing needs related to housing, health, legal support, financial stability, employment, family and community. Please bring a non-perishable snack to donate. Your kindness will be rewarded with a free barbecue sausage. A special thanks to Verity at Women's Legal Services Tasmania for organising this compassionate and meaningful event in recognition of Homelessness Week. Thank you.
Thank you for a very good report, Councillor Mackay. Anyone else? Councillor Marsden.
Thank you, Chair. Like many councillors around the table, I've had the privilege of attending quite a few events over the last fortnight, but I'd like to just focus on one, if I may. Last Friday night, I had the privilege of attending the Asylum Seeker Resource Centre Refugee Leadership Program graduation ceremony on behalf of the City of Launceston. It was a very welcoming evening, a real honour to celebrate alongside the 14 graduates who have completed the leadership program. Through the partnership in Australia with the Migrant Resource Centre, the program empowers people with a lived experience as refugees to develop the skills and confidence to become leaders, advocates and active contributors to our community. I'd like to congratulate each of the graduates on this outstanding achievement. Their resilience, determination and commitment to making a positive difference is something to be proud of. Successful cities, in my opinion, are built on communities that feel as though they belong, and I believe Launceston is actively achieving this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors? All right, we'll now move on to questions by councillors. The question on notice from Councillor Kai has been answered. Any other questions without notice? Councillor Priest, followed by Councillor Britton.
Thank you. I just had a question. Yesterday, attending the event in Park Street, where the walk concluded, I noticed there were quite a few cars that were speeding around the lower end of the Park Street car park. As you drive into the car park, there is a raised section of road, and as you exit the car park, there is another raised section of road. I'm just wondering if, for the safety of the children close to the play equipment and other pedestrians that use that area, if it would be possible to install a speed hump lower in that car park to slow the traffic, whether or not it could be a ready-made one that is just installed towards the end of the car park, or whether or not we'd have to wait till the resurfacing became due. I just wanted to bring it to Council's attention because there were a few young people speeding and revving their cars around that area. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Bruce. I think you'll get a formal answer back on that. Thank you. Councillor Britton.
Thank you very much. Just in relation to the Albert Hall, have we received any complaints, questions, queries or concerns from any schools, colleges, charities or community organisations regarding the use of the Albert Hall? And if so, what are their concerns? And the second question, happy for these to be taken on notice, do we pay any costs for hosting the citizenship ceremonies at the hall?
Answer that, or will you come back? We'll take those on notice and come back to you directly. Thank you, Councillor Britton. Any other questions? Councillor Kai?
My question is for somebody else, so I am asking on their behalf. It's to do with the Adopt a Tree project, and their question is, can they choose what tree to have planted? For example, a fruit tree or a native evergreen tree, and can they have more than one tree? And then they were wondering whether, they said they didn't want a tree, the canopies to be too big or grow over where they might park their cars on the curb. So I was just wondering, can these be taken on notice with an answer to, if I give you the person's details, that we can reply to
We can
them?
get the answer to the question. I suspect that there's a level of, we've got trees that we're prepared to plant from the point of view of infrastructure and things like that. But the answer is, I think we can get an answer to that question. So,
Right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. We'll now written notices of motion. There aren't any committee reports. There aren't any connections, livability, including QV Mag. No items for this agenda. Now we're on to item 9, community assets and design, flood mitigation program, charter and program. So there is a decision statement to be made. Is recommended notes that we note the contents and adopt the flood mitigation program charter, ECM doc set ID 5402142. So I'd like to move the motion. Councillor Britton, a seconder. Councillor Walker. Councillor Britton. Any questions before we start? No? Councillor Britton.
Thank you. Very quickly, but mate, I'll only take 1 minute. But in 2022-2023, there was a scenario running the impact of a 1 in 500-year flood event and what that impact would be on Launceston and the rest of Tasmania. A 10-year recovery with the economic and social costs and impacts potentially stretching far further and greater than anyone can reasonably quantify. From that knowledge, I think this motion was born to create a flood mitigation strategy. Now, on average, for every $100 spent on natural disasters, $97 have been spent on recovery and $3 on mitigation. This document will guide the mammoth amount of work to come over the next 3 years. It's exciting knowing that this is in some regards the first of its kind in Australia and indeed has the potential to help inform other flood-prone communities around Australia and potentially the world. We have received around $500,000 already from federal grants. Council, through the notice of motion, has credited $1 million, and as stated in this document, further grant funding will hopefully be able to be applied for and appropriately used in order to facilitate the many reports, studies and data points that will be needed in order to complete this study. I'm pleased to see the list of many community groups, organisations, councils and government entities that will be included in this whole of catchment study, and I'd like to point out that this is a whole of catchment study. In the past, I've been a proponent of many ideas regarding the Tamar estuary, including siltation, flood and, quite infamously, the mud. I'd never tell a brain surgeon how to do brain surgery, nor would I put my hand up to do it. And I'm confident that the people and plan we have in place to do this study and present Council and indeed the region with a proper mitigation report is in the right hands, is headed in the right direction and will result in a robust document that could shape the city and the region for years to come.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Chair. And just a couple of questions, if I may, before I do speak. I do note that this is going to be over about the next 3 years process. And while there is going to be working groups and key stakeholder engagement and that type of thing, wider stakeholder and community engagement does come really towards the end of this whole process. And I suppose I wonder, is there going to be opportunity through the next 3 years for that community consultation to, somewhat partake? Because of course it's a subject that the community has an avid interest in.
Yes, Catherine Searle for Senior Leader for City Infrastructure. Happy to answer the question and happy to hear your interest in the project. And we're very, very pleased to have received 1.5 million grant funding from the federal government for this project. Firstly, stakeholder engagement and community engagement will take place throughout the 3 years of the project. There is a formal consultation period on the draft plan toward the end of the project, but we're not waiting until then. There will be a great deal of stakeholder engagement, and in fact we'll have a lot of key partners in this because it is a holistic program looking at the whole of the river estuary and river basin system. Of course, that goes beyond the boundaries of City of Launceston, so we will be working very closely with our partnering councils in adjacent councils and with the various riverine and water stakeholders in this space, of which there are many. And there will be periods where we can have some community input into that as well. But we have a very comprehensive register of stakeholders who will potentially be interested in this. We will continue to refine that and have a whole program of regular communications and engagement. And in fact, many of those key stakeholders will be invited to participate in the working groups on this project throughout.
And one more question, if I may, then, of course, there has been an abundance of work done, not just by government departments, but also by community groups that have gone out and done peer-reviewed studies and experts in the field who have done studies on the Tamar estuary, not purely in regards to flood mitigation always, but, to do perhaps more with silt mitigation. But nonetheless, how much of that prior work is going to be useful in this process?
All of it will be very useful in the process. So there is a lot of work going on at the moment to review all of the existing work that's been done to date and all of the existing literature and map those key stakeholder groups, the voluntary groups, Tempt and all of those other groups that we have worked very closely with in many cases, NRM North being another one who've done a lot of that grassroots work, mobilising community to engage in this process. We will engage very closely with them throughout the project.
Thank you to speak, Chair, if I may.
Certainly.
And the reason I ask those questions, of course, is because this has been a burning issue just for a short while in Launceston. Depends how far you want to go back. I know that in 1972, when Gough Whitlam and Lance Barnard were elected as the...
This is not going to be a Councillor Harris speech, is it?
As a cabinet of two in their Labor government in 1972, they passed about 35 policies, and one of them was the dredging of the Tamar River, alongside leaving no longer being in Vietnam, no-fault divorce, and other things like that, which were nation-building things. I think it was Lance Barnard who managed to get the dredging in there as well. I only mention it because there is avid interest across the board. This has to be a whole-of-community venture, and it has to bring those people on board. We do not want to get to the end of this just to see the arguments start again about what should or shouldn't be done. We have to take this journey together as a community once and for all. This is a 3-year journey. It has to be broad and open, robust, and ultimately it has to deliver. It has to deliver tangible, achievable goals in terms of flood mitigation. Yes, it will be an example to other parts of Australia, and I do congratulate Councillor Britton on being the person who brought this motion to Council, and because this will put us in a position to be able to protect our community the best we can going into the future. It might be an example for other parts of Australia, but we know that the Kanamaluka-Tama River is also quite unique, the longest estuary in Australia, an inland city, which is quite rare. You know, there's not so many cities our size that are not already on the coast. The confluence of two rivers, a siltation issue, you know, the list goes on. That's why it is such a complex issue, and that's why this work is so important. This has to be the comprehensive, conclusive study that brings Launceston together in order for us to move forward together. Our river is so very important to us. It defines us in so many ways, and yet we know that we're vulnerable to a flood event. Council has done the work previously to look at the implications of a flood event in Launceston, and they are disastrous. If our levy system is breached, the cost is enormous. The division of our community is huge. A lot of people say it's not if, but when. That's something that we accept. And so this is so prescient. This is so important that this work gets done now. Because it could be next week that this happens, or it could be in 20 years' time. We don't know that. But what we do know is we can take action now, and that's what this is all about. And I congratulate, as I say, Councillor Britton, but Launceston Council for embracing it so wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Next Councillor, question, Councillor Harris.
Yes, question, and I might speak afterwards if that's okay. Just briefly, I noticed in the report I couldn't find any reference to the $8 million, and I'll call them silt traps, that have been proposed for the North Esk River, that is under the Urban Rivers and Catchment Program, which is different to the $540,000 that we've got under the Australian Government Disaster Ready Fund Round 3, which is funding this report. So I was curious to see, and I couldn't see it in the report, I may have overlooked it. Are such things as that put on hold whilst this report is being actioned, or is it something that will follow us accepting this report, or is it something that is being done in parallel? Are you able to throw it away?
Yes, our flood asset management program will continue unaffected by this flood mitigation plan. The two are separate. So the flood mitigation plan may include some recommendations around flood asset management, things like the levees and silt traps and all of those sorts of things, detention basins, etc. But we will continue to manage those, and we have grant funding to support those as well. And of course the work of the Launceston Flood Authority oversees a lot of that work. So that continues unchanged. This program is running in parallel and independently of that business as usual flood asset management and is subject to separate grant funding.
Just a further follow-up question along the same vein. We had the $4 million state government grant for dredging in and around the North Esk and Tama River Basin. Has that now been, if you like, put on the back burner forever or extinguished? Or could it in fact become part of an outcome from this particular plan, as far as you're aware?
This was actually a grant program, I think, by the then Premier Peter Gutwin several elections ago.
Yes. I don't know enough about the history of this, but I know that we're not doing dredging. We as a council are not doing dredging. Whether Tempt or some other agency have taken that on, I don't know the answer to that. I can take that on notice.
I think the question is, we were promised $4 million in a budget allocation a number of years ago to be used for dredging. It's never been used for that. Can it be redirected? And it's something that maybe we should look at, but I suspect it's probably gone.
There was funding in the flood asset management grant funding that we get did include funds for dredging. There was a clause in that contract that said if we discontinued dredging that we could reuse that funding for other flood asset management works, which is what we have done. So we are reusing whatever remaining grant funding out of that original agreed sum is now funding our flood asset management program.
Thank you. Did you want to speak, Councillor Harris?
Just to say, I do think that this is an important day to move this forward. Having a charter and having a plan is by far the best way for us to slowly make our way forward on this particular matter. As Councillor Walker said, it's only been going on since, time immemorial probably, but certainly since the early 1960s when the very first levies were established in Launceston, and then of course given a boost by the Deputy Prime Minister, Lance Barnard, in 1972 and 3. So really important for a day for us to have this charter going forward, and I look forward to its being implemented over time. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Harris. Councillor Pentridge.
Well, the only value in this report will be that we stack them along the levies with all the other million reports we've had. There will be one other block, one hole. This is a complete and utter waste of money and time. And I'm going to beg my colleagues here, we'll just go back through a little bit of history. We got given, I think, $10 million to do the Avondale. Cost us 25. Who found the other 15? This community. We then got, 13 million to do the Princess Theatre, right? Where's the other 50 million going to come from? We're just blowing money like it's gone out of fashion. We get given $500,000 on a grant. So what do? We throw another $1 million to it. Why don't we do $500,000 worth of reports? Why are we bleeding this community to death? Right? And I know for a fact that in 2016, all the flood mitigation equipment that was placed along our rivers to pre-warn us about the flooding, guess what happened? We lost the manuals, and when all the beepers went off, we didn't know what the beepers meant. So we still got flooded. I mean, this is just a joke. We're just spending money on reports, throwing money. Look, if we were given $1.5 million by the federal government, by all means, take it and put it into something that will benefit Launceston. But to be given 500,000, then throw another $1 million at it, you're just getting too silly for words. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. And like I said, it's ridiculous.
Thank you, Councillor Pentridge. Any other contributions? Councillor Redden, would you like to close?
Thank you very much. And just to maybe, Councillor Pentridge, a few years ago, it was actually this table who, and thanks for the shout out, Tim, but I mean, well done to everyone. It was everyone's decision that we would invest that money. And then the federal government has subsequently given us grants towards that afterwards, just to make that clear. But the only thing I was going to finish off with was obviously this is a document that will almost present us with a strategy in 2029. It'll be up to the then council and governments at the time to do whatever it says inside it. We will get some updates soon. Hopefully Mr. Duncan can come and speak to us potentially at a workshop. And apart from that, I'll be looking on eagerly until 2029. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I do note your comment about 3% spent on mitigation and 97% spent on the actual recovery. And given what I've seen, it's years, not weeks, that comes after a flood. So it's important work. All those in favour? Those against? Councillor Pentridge against, the rest in favour. Right. Move on. 18.2. Proposed alternative street name for extension of Chapel Street, Ravenswood, Pendle Place. So the decision is consider overturning the decision made on the 25th of June where it approved the use of the existing street name Chapel Street and the approved new street name Pendle Place, Ravenswood. Notes that the place names Tasmania, so the recommendation is, notes that the place names Tasmania has refused the use of Chapel Street for the extension of the existing Chapel Street, approved by decision of Council on the 25th of June, pursuant to provision of Section 54 of the Local Government Highways Act, 1980, approved the alternative name Pendle Place, Ravenswood, accessed off Seymour Street as shown in the attachment. And 3, notes recommendation 2 is resolved in the affirmative. It will overturn the decision made on the 25th of June 2026 for agenda item 18.1 to approve the use of an existing street name, Chapel Street, and it requires a decision by an absolute majority pursuant to Regulation 22.2 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulation 2025. Councillor Harris, Councillor McMahon. Councillor Harris, speak.
Just to speak to it, yes, if you look on the map, you'll see that the Chapel Street does stop about halfway between Faulkner Road and Seymour Street. So the problem, of course, with modern mapping technology is it will often send drivers or ambulances the wrong way, and then they'll come, they can't get through. So it is pretty logical why they rejected the name as an extension of Chapel Street when it is non-contiguous. To call it Pendle Place, I'm not sure of the reasons why. Perhaps the thing that sprung to my name is that perhaps the owner of the property is a Collingwood supporter and he was recognising Scott Pendlebury and he thought that all the Collingwood supporters would want to live in Pendle
Not
Place.
overly relevant, Councillor Harris.
Other than that, we have no reason why he picked that name. I'll leave it at that and hopefully everyone will support it.
Councillor McMahon, any further comments by anyone? If not, we'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's all councillors present. Motion carried. Move on from there to 19, which is delivery and performance. I might just wait for Executive Leader Williams and Byron to arrive. So 19.1, which are fees and charges 26-27 amendment. And the recommendation is that pursuant to Section 205 of the Local Government Act 1993 TAS includes the examination certification of a strata plan fee, previously published 26-27 fees and charges, schedule is detailed in ECM document ZID 5374262. So somebody like to move that motion? Councillor McMahon, seconder. Councillor Harris. Before we go on, is there anything you'd like to make comment on there, either of you? It's straightforward to the extent that it was missed, is that right?
Yeah, pretty much it was missed. We do note that the fee is significantly lower than what a lot of other Tasmanian councils do charge as well. The relevant senior leader has done some market research and we are well below what some of our counterparts charge.
Thank you very much. Move the motion. Nothing to say? Sorry.
Yeah, not too much to say. I think this one's pretty straightforward. It was obviously missed off the fees and charges. We, by the sounds of it, are sitting in a very good spot with the charge that we're charging, and we obviously have people that need to be charged this fee, so I am happy to support it. Thank you.
Second, would like to speak?
I need to ask the question, to increase from $304 to $450, whilst that $450 is still lower than the others, is a nearly 50% increase from where it started. Had this fee been missed out previously, or have we not confirmed or compared, I should say, with other councils to see whether we were charging the market rates?
Yes.
When we review our fees and charges, we generally put a 3% or whatever the fact figure is default fee on it. And the majority of times that keeps us in line or in the grouping of like councils. I think with this one, having reviewed it this year, we realised that we were significantly behind like councils. So we have reviewed our fee. I think from the research that we've done, we would still be in the bottom third probably of what councils charge, but given the quantum of the increase, you know, it's not our ambition to lead the pack on charges, so we took a fee that a position that was relatively conservative but brought us back into line with our counterparts. counterparts, our local government counterparts.
Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Harris? Any other any other speakers? You got anything further to say? Move of the motion? Okay, we'll put the vote then. All those in favour? That's all councillors present. Move on to 19.2, 25-26 budget amendment. I'd like to see a move of the motion. I'll get Executive Leader to speak to it before we start. Councillor Harris, seconder. Councillor Walker, just wouldn't mind just to give a bit of, given there's a fair bit in this, it might be just worthwhile the Executive Leader or Senior Leader of Finance to actually just give us a rundown as to why we've got so much in front of us.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very happy to provide some context. So we've got two budget amendments back-to-back tabled today. So the first item in front of you is for the 25-26 year, so last financial year, and then we have an item for the 26-27 financial year, which we're currently in. So annually we bring a budget amendment to you where we remove external funds that we haven't yet received, and then we put them back into the current financial year. So we are doing that, and you can see that information at recommendation 1A under the revenue section there, where we decrease revenue and external grants and contributions by 13 million. We are then putting the majority of that back into this financial year, which is dealt with at the subsequent item. There's a lot of movement between some capital projects, so where reallocations have been made in the last couple of months, and we're seeking approval from Council today for those, and a bit of end-of-year tidy up as well with some other budget amendments as well. So this is a significantly larger budget amendment than what you will be used to, but it is normal in the sense that at the end of each year we do this balancing with our external funds not received.
Just on the basis that we're showing an underlying operating budget surplus of a deficit of 2,030, that's still a theoretical balance. Is that right at this point in time?
That's correct. The finance team are working hard at the moment to submit our interim financial statements to Audit TAS. That's due by the end of next week. We will have audited financial statements back by the end of September, and we'll present them to the AGM. I think that is in October or November.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Councillor Harris is the mover of the motion.
Thank you. As our Executive Leader said, this is somewhat of a tidying up of the budgets to move the numbers around, and obviously $13 million not received, I assume, was for the Princess Theatre. Number of adjustments to equal 13, thank you. And it is something that happens at this time of the year. As you said, it is a matter of time of cleaning it up, and I noticed that City Heart has had $86,000 taken out of its budget and transferred across to the security bus stops. And that is a typical example of what happens with the money that doesn't get spent. It is usually got somewhere else that has come up sight unseen at the start of the financial year, or when the planning was being done, that had to be brought into the budget. So this is simply the closing off of that whole cycle of the financial year, in my opinion. And I'm happy to take the Executive Officer's word for the explanation of it all. Thank you.
Councillor Walker.
Not much more needs to be said, I don't think. I think it is useful, people who wish to understand where council are at with projects that are currently underway. The money hasn't been drawn down, even if it is sort of somewhat available. It's not to be drawn down until such a time that that work can commence and conditions met. So that explains those that grant money. And in regards to the movement of money from capital to operations, I think that's where people can witness inner workings. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor, could you just take the chair for a second, Councillor Harris? Thank you. Just in relation to, there's a significant lot of capital adjustments that have been made under the Chief Executive's Office report, adjustments about 2 or 3 and a bit pages of that. What I wouldn't mind, would it be possible for officers to give an explanation maybe in their bulletin just as to why those have increased? Because All very easy to take something out of capital and put into another capital account. Just want to ensure that we understand why that's happened. It's cleaning up, I know, but ultimately trying to work out whether there are efficiencies or inefficiencies in jobs that come as a result of those transfers. I mean, it's emptying out one bucket to enable it to pay something else. I just wouldn't mind an explanation of that in the bulletin.
Absolutely, we can get the team working on that and we'll provide that to council.
Thank you very
via
much.
the bulletin.
And I'll hand the meeting back to you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor, any other comments? Back to you as the move of the motion, Councillor Harris.
Nothing further to say.
Okay, we'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Councillor Pentridge against, all others in favour. We now move on to the second half of the exercise. When I get there. Sorry, I missed it. I went too far. So, no. Budget Amendment 26-27, which is bringing things back into the next year's budget. Would somebody like to move that motion? Councillor Harris, Councillor Britton. Sorry, Councillor Walker and Councillor Britton, sorry. Councillor Walker.
You explained it so eloquently in your introduction, Chair. I think there's nothing more that needs to be said, but this is coming back into this current year's projects.
Thank you. Councillor Britton, anything from you? Any other comments from anyone? If not, we'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Pentridge against, all the rest in favour. Okay. 19.4, Councillors' Expenses and Resources Policy. So it's to consider adoption of the Council Expenses and Resources Policy, and the recommendation is that Council adopts the Councillors' Expenses and Resources Policy 14 PLX 016 as set out below. Would someone like to move the motion? Councillor Harris, seconder of the motion. Councillor Priest, speak to the motion. Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor. This is very important that we do have a policy so that people can't claim they didn't understand or they didn't realise. They thought it was part of the perks of the job. It hasn't happened in this chamber, but other councils have their issues with not understanding what the policies actually are, and so it's very important that this council has a strong policy that is based on common sense and uses figures and other past from the tax office and other places which are generally accepted as being sufficient to meet the expenses of what a person is doing in carrying out their duties. Having spent a career in quasi-public servants whose travelling conditions were very public servant, I think this is what I expect council to have, and it is good to see that we're now updating the policy. Hadn't been done for a while, and I think it's well before time. It's not before time that we're doing this, and I think it will take any ambiguity out of what a councillor can or can't legally claim. I think that's really important for everyone to know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Priest, was nothing further to add? Anyone? Councillor Walker?
Yeah, 12 years is a long time between waterholes as far as updating policies go here. It might be prescient for a council to develop a roster, if you like, of policy updates. Maybe you could argue some need less attention than others, but I think it is good governance for us to be able to just say that we've looked at it, we've overseen it, that nothing, no anomalies. Indeed, there's not that many changes here in terms of the policy from 2014 to now, but nonetheless, this is, basic governance, I suppose, that it helps us to, and the community to also just be aware that the policies exist. So if I can finish with a question, maybe there's an opportunity for us to report back on a possible future roster of policies, like whether some could be.
So I think you're talking about a policies register, which actually has
There's a register.
A register which actually has the dates that they've been reviewed and when they need to be reviewed again.
That does exist. That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
That does exist, and my colleague here has made a significant impact on our policy register since he's recommenced with council, and the senior and executive leadership teams are working on that at the moment. We're bringing those policies to council for approval is needed, but certainly happy to provide you with access to that register, Councillor Walker.
That's great, thank you.
It might be worth just putting on for the next council something where you've actually got which policies of review next year and set that up for the new council. Okay, any further commentary? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Pentridge, all the others are in favour. So 19.5, Local Government Association Tasmania voting directions for the annual general meeting and general meeting on the 19th of August 2026. The officers have put out their recommendations through the document. So would somebody like to move that those recommendations be accepted? Councillor Walker, seconder. Councillor Marsden. Councillor Walker, would you like to speak?
Thank you. Apart from us just acknowledging and noting many of the resolutions that are somewhat perfunctory, I suppose you'd say, there's a couple there. One from the City of Hobart in regards to the demise of post offices in Tasmania. It's interesting that it comes from the metropolis itself. But nonetheless, I think that has also been raised by West Coast Council as well in the past. So, of course, I think we should endorse that. And also another one for LGAT to have a policy around short-stay accommodation, I do believe, in regards to our ability to increase the amount that is charged, that's an appropriate amount under the Land Use Planning Act for applications, recovery of costs for applications of long-stay accommodation, short-stay accommodation, I should say. Yeah, which probably the main two. And I do believe our chair and the mayor will be attending that particular meeting. Thank you.
Councillor Marsden, nothing further. Anyone else, anything further to add? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All councillors present, noting Councillor Britton's out of the room. Right, next one is moving to strategy and innovation. 20.1, lease Lilydale Pony Club, Corolla Hall and Recreation Ground. So to consider entering negotiations with Lilydale District Pony Club for a lease of Corolla Memorial Hall and Recreational Grounds, which is not within the scope of the lease and licensing policy. I think that's been outlined in the document as to what that's all about. Would somebody like to move that? Councillor Walker, second to Councillor Harris. Councillor Walker.
Thank you. And this has been a long-standing arrangement for the Pony Club, Lilydale District Pony Club, to be located out there at the Corolla Hall next to the old footy ground, the cricket ground, and it's understandable then that, they do, generate a small amount of return on the use of that hall, but nonetheless, this proposal is for them to not be charged the rent under Community Group B, rather to be charged in Community Group A category of $356 per annum. I think that's a wholly sensible outcome to have a local club managing a local facility like that. My only question, and I won't presume the answer, is it Launceston City Council that maintain that building? Because there was one statement in this report that said something about the Pony Club maintaining the facility or something like that, and I just wanted the clarification around that. Where does that start and end?
Currently, under their current lease, it is their responsibility to maintain the grounds.
The grounds, not the building.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Second, sorry, Councillor Harris. Nothing? Any other comments? I'd just like to acknowledge the pragmatic approach that's been taken in relation to this by being able to look at our policy and see it doesn't quite fit this particular circumstance. So well done for that. All those in favour? That's all councillors present. Thank you. item 20.2, 62 Gorge Road, Trevellyn. Councillor, what's your name? Councillor Walker. Councillor Walker is moving that. Seconder, Councillor Harris. Councillor Walker, would you like to speak to it?
Thank you very much. What's your name? Okay. Thank you very much, Chair, for this opportunity to speak to this item. And I must thank council staff for responding so positively to a community organisation that has expressed an interest in a building that has long been owned by Launceston City Council, not always maintained to perfection, and currently vacant, that being the cottage at 62 Gorge Road. This recommendation is to rescind the decision made on March the 19th by this council. That decision made was it was an amended recommendation that I amended to prior any demolition. Council consider options to dispose of the land, but ultimately that decision was to demolish the property if no one took an interest in it. So this decision today is just to halt that process. Therefore, the cottage is not in imminent threat of being demolished, while council pursues an opportunity for a local community group. When I say local, a next door community group, the Trevellyn Bowls and Community Club, to take on the responsibility for that site, which would of course be a benefit to the club, but also a benefit to Launceston itself in a time of housing crisis, to provide another house for a family. And of course, when people say, well, that doesn't make much difference, it makes a big difference to the family who might be lucky enough to move in there. And it also may result in the opportunity for Launceston Council to receive rates for the building in the long term. It also may create the opportunity for council to consider progressing the local heritage listing of this property if it's fortunate enough to survive demolition and to be restored somewhat to its former glory. So I heartily recommend this to the council as something really positive that we can do for our community, and potentially avoid spending the money that we were prepared to spend to demolish it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Walker. Councillor Harris.
Yeah, thank you, Acting Mayor. This report, as Councillor Walker said, does give us time, and it does give us, hopefully, the council officers will come back to us with further options under the note under the disposal request, where the council there has been a request made to transfer the cottage to the Trevellyn Bowls and Community Club for nil consideration or any other costs associated with the transfer, and further consideration of this request will be included in the report. And we do look forward to receiving that report so that we can make an informed decision on what they may be proposing. The advantage of something like a Trevellyn Bowls and Community Club has within their membership certain expertise that is much greater than the previous operators of that, which was the Trevellyn Recreation Reserve, Trevellyn Park Improvement Association, in fact. So they have a much broader membership, and therefore there is the opportunity for this to be better. And they may even come back with a proposal that would see a greenskeeper or something similar living in the property, which may be necessary.
I think you're surmising things are ahead of the report.
Indeed, but these are all good options, and I thank Councillor Walker for his pursuing of this. It is probably better spent than spending $80,000 to knock it down to have a flat block of land. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Harris. Any other contributions? Councillor Pentridge.
To agree with my colleague here, Mr. Harris. Thank you, Councillor Walker, for giving that building the opportunity had you not bought up. Not that you were rewarded for it in any way, but every good deed deserves to be punished. It has been a positive outcome, and hopefully, as Councillor Harris said, some good will come of it. If not directly in the fact that it benefits the bowling club, which is a community organisation. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pentridge. Councillor Britton.
Thanks very much. I just wanted to say well done to Councillor Walker as well. In the past I had said a few things about this house, but this is indeed a delightful opportunity to get a positive outcome, and I'll be voting in favour of it today. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other contributions? Not Councillor Walker to finish up.
Thank you, Chair. And while we're not quite across the finish line yet, this is just a positive outcome for the community. It's the type of result that I think we can achieve together working with the community. We do maintain hundreds of buildings. We've just talked about Karula and the Pony Club at Lilydale there, and they do maintain the grounds there. We are going to have to find ways to share our resources with the community's various clubs and services more, because there is that weight of responsibility on Launceston Council. So many properties, only so much money in the budget to maintain these properties, and any creative way that we can find to move forward, I think will be a positive thing for our community. So let's hope that we get this one across the line soon.
Thanks, Councillor Walker, and I also acknowledge the work you've put into this as well. So we'll put the motion there. All in favour? That's all councillors present. Thank you. Thank you very much. We're now on to item 20.3, the Tasmanian State Government grant funds towards organics landfill diversion. I think I'll just wait for the officers to arrive up here, and then you can put your hand up, Councillor Harris. Okay, all mover, Councillor Harris, seconder, Councillor Britton. Any questions of the officer?
If I may, just a question for the officer. This is wonderful news that we've got this grant, and I notice that it is to do with our organics landfill. And the question that has been asked of us as councillors is this vehicle going to be a new electric vehicle, or in fact will it be, unfortunately, a diesel or petrol driven vehicle, or even perhaps a hybrid?
Thanks for the very pertinent question. It is, in fact, a fuel truck. We haven't really advanced that far with heavy loads. Like this vehicle can take up to 5 tonne. So fuel vehicle.
Well, I was just going to ask one other question, and that is, it's obviously intended that this vehicle will go around and obtain organics from other than what is put in people's FOGO bins at home. So have we got identified businesses and properties that would provide such organics? And can you also perhaps just explain the benefits of having additional organics into what is collected from residents in the FOGO bins, which, if it's mine, it's mostly my lawn clippings and branches, rather than food and organics?
Thanks again for the question. No, this is intended really to look at our own internal collections and small commercial collections where we know there's a known gap at the moment. So it's not to do any more in the residential collections of FOGO. And I guess when you think about the advantages, if we can get this known amount out of our landfill, then we have savings operationally because it's half the cost to process that material, the organic material. We also have recently been successful in an Australian carbon credit units project for organics diversion through the federal government. So every organic tonne that we divert away from landfill, there's a financial benefit to that as well. Yeah.
You wanting to speak now, Councillor?
Only to say this seems to be a very good grant for us to accept because, as our officer has said, diverting organics from being buried in the ground and using them mixed with our FOGO to create a commercial quality product that we use then for our own gardens and other places is the ultimate in recycling. And this really is a fantastic outcome. And I look forward to the benefits that this will show, and it may well lead to others being added to the fleet in the future. if it is as successful, or if not that, it can show other councils how they can do it, because is often the case, the Launceston Council has been leading the way with its FOGO collection in Tasmania for a long time. So I commend it to the motion, to the table. Thank you.
Councillor Britton, nothing to say. Any other comment? Councillor Walker?
Just a question, if I may. And I must say, at first I presumed this was primarily for commercial, maybe CBD or urban CBD businesses, but it's also collecting from our own parks and reserves and things like that. So, and it's implied that it would be a full-time job to do that collection. So, what might we expect that this would be operating perhaps 5 days a week on different runs and circuits?
Yeah, correct. At the moment, according to the business plan that we put together to be able to go out for this grant, we went out and surveyed up to, I think it was 70 businesses, food-related businesses. We're able to contact them through them being registered with us. And yeah, over 78% of those people identified that they would like to have a collection. And when we look at it, yes, it would be a 5-day a week. It would be for our internal parks, gardens, reserves, but also facilities. At Town Hall, we enjoy having a FOGO collection in our facilities here, but I think we could do that widely across all of it. Yeah, does that answer your question?
No, it certainly does. And I know that we, in years gone by, we've had concessional rates for businesses that might have been in the business of meat production and meat waste and things like that. Might it be that this would overlap with some of those concessional waste rates that we've previously had?
At the moment, it doesn't really cross over into that, other than people bringing those organics or garden organics directly to our service if they were being successful with their application to the concessional entries. At the moment, it's envisaged really as a pay for service. And back to the first part of your question, a full-time position, yes, it is a new position that we'd be going out for, and we built a business case which was successful for that.
Just to speak, if I may, Chair.
Certainly.
Thank you. It's wonderful to see this progress. I think there was some concern with the waste levy, the increased impost on the disposal of waste in Launceston. That is, of course, passed down to everyone, whether you're commercial or private or otherwise, one way or another. That there was little gain, that we weren't seeing the payback, because after all, the state government, this is increasing every year at the moment, and we're hearing stories at the moment of glass stockpiles in Tasmania, and a lack of knowing what to do with that, how to not send something as valuable as glass into landfill. So this is obviously anything that diverts it, which was meant to be what the waste levy was ultimately for. Anything that can divert it like this is a great thing. We'll find out fairly quickly, I suppose, whether this service gets to capacity, and if and when it does, what more we may need. But I'll just finish by, I suppose, asking you, because you only just mentioned that this would be a fee-for-service arrangement with commercial operators. Do we have a... I mean, we're not necessarily wanting a full cost recovery. Is that part of the business model, that ultimately this would be cost recovery there as well? Because we're diverting it, it means we're not paying the waste levy on it. So just a little sort of clarity around how we determine that cost of service. Thank you.
It's based on the approximate volumes that we think we can get, which when we did the business case, we think around 1,000 tonnes is available right now, plus around 600 tonne from our own operations. As far as how we worked out the business case, it's actually cost positive to around $90,000 after you take in the consideration of the full FTE, superannuation on costs, and also fleet costs, which is somewhere near in the $50,000 per year. But when we look at the savings that we have operationally straight away, what I mentioned before around the carbon credits that we'll now be able to apply for, that's where we see our savings. And the cost at the moment, we're looking at like $10 a collection, which might be a weekly type collection, which is very affordable when you put it against, say, like commercial rates. And yeah.
Great news story. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councillor Pentridge?
Once we've picked it up, first thing I thought you indicated that it wasn't for public use, it was only for our own private use. Is that correct? And commercial. So someone will ring up and
correct, yes.
We'll charge them a fee. I'd like to see who can afford to pay that, but still we'll go on. So when we've collected it, what do we do with it then?
After we collect it, we take it up to the Launceston Waste Centre and we'll process it at our organics processing facility, like we do with the current residential FOGO.
Well, I don't think it's a good idea. I think we should be sending the money back to the government, thanking them for their offer of buying a truck. This is going to be the beginning of a nightmare, a little bit like all our wood chip. What happened to all our wood chip when we tried to dispose of that? Do you recall, or is it, what happened to the wood chip? My memory of it is that we had a market for the wood chip, and it couldn't be used because it was full of glass, where people threw the glass in. Is that correct?
I'm just seeking clarification on our wood chip from the City of Launceston.
Yeah. My understanding was that there was a company that had a use for it, but they had to stop getting it. And my understanding is, if I get my phone out, I can see I've got photos of mountains of it at the back of our tip sitting there. And the reason it's sitting there is because it's contaminated full of glass. Is that correct?
It's not actually correct why it's sitting there. In the early days.
Is it contaminated with glass?
No, there are parts, it is a recycled product, so you will have sources of contamination, whether that's plastic, metal or glass, but we do send it off for Australian standard and we comply with the Australian standard for the soil conditions and mulches. The stockpiles that you've seen out there is when we were immature in our growth with the FOGO and the processing, we couldn't actually move the material. Now we can wholesale it, but the benefit of those stockpiles that you've seen is that we've then able to use that on our regeneration projects, like the clay pit that was out the back there that you would have seen. And we saved like $1 million by not having to bring in topsoil with it.
So is that still a bad idea?
Very much so, because if anyone wants to go and have a look at the clay pit and the erosion that's occurred in that clay pit that we've allowed, yet we lecture everyone else about erosion. I mean, this is another idea, and for the sake of the record, it follows on with my earlier comments today about the Albert Hall, at Princess Theatre. Like the Trojan horse. They were curious about the horse and they dragged it into a city that couldn't be conquered for years and years. So what we've done is, like with Albert Hall, we were granted a small amount of money, but never finished the project, and then this community had to pay another 50% to get it finished. We did the same with Princess Theatre, and we're going to do the same with this. Right? The green waste is being wasted, is being utilised now. It's being used commercially, right? And I don't see why we should be competing with that commercial operation, because anyone that cares about cleaning up their yards cares about getting rid of it appropriately. And I can't see this is going to change anything other than create another burden that we can do without. But anyway, time will tell.
Thank you, Councillor Pentridge.
Thank you.
Any other comment? If not, back to the move of the motion. Councillor Harris.
I do, thank you. It's interesting where that motion went. I still think this is a good news story. I think the FOGO project in Launceston, when you're the first, there are always issues, but this to collect from smaller operators who have FOGO, who have suitable organic waste that is not going to be put into our landfill, but in fact be diverted to improve the quality of what we create and pick up is still to be congratulated. I don't see a Trojan horse here, and so I do encourage everyone to still support this particular motion today.
I thought the Trojan horse won, but anyway. So we'll now put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Councillor Pentridge against. The rest in favour of. The motion carried. Okay, we'll move on to section 21, which is Chief Executive Officers Network. There were no items. There still are no items. Okay, we have late items. We did schedule that there were no late items, but there is a late item coming in at 22.1, and pursuant to Local Government Act 1993, TAS Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulation 2025, Regulation 19, for that late motion to come forward, it needs the approval of the Chair, of which I am, and I approve, and the CEO, who is not here but has approved in absentia for this motion to be brought forward. So no motions from Councillor Harris to report into the effect of applying a rate capping of 20% on primary production to commercial rate charge in the budget 2026-27, 5th of August 2026. Councillor Harris, I assume you wish to move it. Second, Councillor, what have you named again? Councillor Walker. Speak. Sorry, before we start, any questions of the officers? Okay, speak. And you can ask a question.
I'll ask just the first question. This notice of motion has come about because of the changes that have been implemented in our current 26-27 budget, and I have asked for the report into the effect of providing a rating cap of 20% on primary production to commercial rate charges. Is the officer confident that he can meet that requirement to report back to our next meeting on the 20th of August?
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Certainly appreciate the consideration of the deadline. The team and I are confident that we can provide that report. We already have much of the information at hand, so we're in a good position to be able to provide that in a fortnight's time on the 20th of August.
Thank you. And I do stand to bring this late notice of motion. This is simply asking for our council officers to prepare a report into what our options will be for us to consider at our next council meeting. Much has been made of the effect of moving some people who are from primary production to commercial rate charges from their rating perspective and the increases that they have had. Many of us were unaware that the 20% cap that we have on residential properties is in fact only for residential rate increases and doesn't extend to the other categories. So that is why part of this recommendation talks about if we are to apply a cap of 20% to primary production, to also consider that across the other rating categories as well, and whether there's someone else who has an increase greater than 20%, and they might be commercial or industrial. A rate cap of 20% is something that this council has done for a long time. Other councils don't necessarily have it. Some have different versions of it. Some might have 50% as a maximum rate increase. So I look forward to seeing that report, and also look forward to seeing what other councils surrounding us, which will be interesting because a lot of them are more rural than ourselves, and they may well have a flatter rate structure than we do, but also to see what other cities do as well in this state, because some of those will have rural properties as well as what we do here in Launceston. So it really is quite a simple request. We're not making the final decision today. That will be a final decision for the next 2 weeks' time, and it will, I guess, give it to it before any payment requirement or deadline is actually required by those people who have this increase. However, people should not imagine that they won't have to pay their rates. They will still have to pay some form of rates. It is just how much of the increase might be applicable in this year or otherwise. But that's yet to be decided. So I think this is a sensible process for us to go through that addresses the issue and hopefully takes some of the heat out of people's concerns. But we will then make a final decision in a couple of weeks about what we do. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Harris. Second, Councillor Walker, apologies, sitting in my seat, I think that's why I'm forgetting who you are. You don't look anything like me.
I'm the new Councillor Mackenzie. Yes, Councillor Walker, and I do want to start by just acknowledging that there are unintended consequences for decisions that we make sometimes, and I think this is perhaps one of those times where if any councillor had been told this is going to mean up to a $40,000 rate increase for some people, we might have had pause for concern. What we discussed was equalising rates across commercial activities, I suppose. We're talking about industrial and commercial and primary production. And that seems a reasonable enough proposition. But I'm happy to acknowledge that I did not realise the implications of that. And if someone had told me that, you know, perhaps this is going to be a substantial increase on someone's rates, if it was a substantial increase on my rates, I'd likewise be concerned if I saw a 40% increase on my rates. So I just wanted to acknowledge that first, because I don't think there was any ill intent. Certainly that information was available, and I'm not saying that it wasn't. It was implicit, not necessarily explicit in some cases, but nonetheless, here we are finding ourselves as a responsible council looking towards what we can do to ameliorate the situation. And that has come in the form of a notice of motion from Councillor Harris, and I thank him for pursuing this. I know other councillors were also keen to find some way of addressing this. And what we will have, and what the community will have in 2 weeks' time, probably less, when the agenda comes out, is a fairly comprehensive analysis of what that will mean for our budget, what that means for ratepayers going forward, how we can achieve and continue, to be equitable in this situation. There are all sorts of different examples. I know that we have hardship clauses. I know that we have different ways of dealing with things when it comes to rates and our ratepayers. But nonetheless, even a $1,000 increase might be a lot for somebody. And for someone else, it might not mean much at all. We're not to know that. And it is, prescient for us to readdress this now that we are all clear on those concerns. So, having said all that, and I think this is a good way forward, just to identify what other implications there might be for other rate bases, and to analyse those implications. It might mean that council does have to take a bit of a hit to its bottom line moving forward, and a gradual increment in this area to bring about that equitable rate base on commercial activities. And that's something that we will discuss with the information that will be provided. So I hope that does give those people who have been affected some assurance that everyone has heard loud and clear the concerns, and they are justifiable, rightly so, that those concerns should be expressed. So I look forward to the report and the implications of it, because this is something that is always going to be a balancing act for council. We're never going to get it perfect. In this case, we didn't understand the underlying implications, the size of some of these particular rate bases, the number of titles that someone might have under what would otherwise be seen as one property. There's all sorts of permutations, and this is that opportunity to get that right. And I look forward to this getting support around the table as a first step in that direction. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Walker. Any other speakers? Sure you want to, Councillor Pencher? Are you sure you want to, on the basis of your ownership? Yes, I do. It's rural property.
I personally don't.
Okay, well, I'm just letting you know. I'm just giving you the option.
Well, thank you. Now, the last thing I want to do is, having spent most of this week and some of my staff on this matter, I must admit I couldn't quite get my head around how it went from a moderate increase, a couple of cents I think it was, started off, to then, on the other hand, it ended up a 40% increase to some people, which is horrific, right? Now, for those listening, there was some merit in the constant need to increase our revenue, to try and even things out. But I think where it's crossed the line, to call some of these little hobby farms commercial enterprises is absolutely ridiculous. Most of these little farms that are going to be hit by this, I think there's 530 of them, right, would all the parties in those households would work. You would not make an income out of those farms. And although times move on, costs increase, I think that we should defer this for 12 months, right?
We're collecting information today, not changing any. We're not making any decisions today. Next week,
I think if it's going to, I think what Alan's done was the best we could do in a short notice. But I think my colleagues need to give people who this is going to affect the opportunity, right? And reducing it from 40% to 20%, you know, it's like sort of kicking someone and then giving them a band-aid so it doesn't hurt as much, right? I think we need to pre-warn if this is the direction that we have to go in. I think that the people who it's going to affect dramatically get the opportunity to adjust their operations, or either make them more commercial or to get out of it. That's for what it's worth. You know, if it's
and again, I respect that, and we can deal with that at the next meeting. So that's quite appropriate for you to deal with that as part of the next conversation when we're making a decision on what to do. Today is about a fact-finding mission to get information, so we've got the proper information to make the decision.
In all fairness, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I sometimes feel like the lone voice for our community. I mean, there's plenty of reasons why we need to do all these things. That really, the effect that it has on our community is dramatic. And I think we need to slow down some of these things. The people who this is going to affect are hard-working people who work most of the week on jobs and spend the weekend maintaining their properties. And this is a bit of a kick in the guts for them.
And the commercial properties and the industrial properties have views as well. So,
as both you and I would know, commercial real estate, right, has been something that I have been tinkering with for a while. I haven't got real good at it yet. I haven't made any money out of it. But at the end of the day, the rental comes in 7 days a week. A lot different to farming. You only get out of farming what you put into it, and most of it's pretty hard work.
And the tenant who's paying the rates is not always taking home money either.
No,
but anyway,
no, we have good, smart solicitors, and they make the tenants pay the rates.
Anyway,
we constantly whinge and moan about the cost of them.
I think the point is that this is an information today, collection of facts, then we'll talk about it in a fortnight's time. Those issues that you've raised are quite relevant, and we need to talk about them some more before now making the decision. So happy with the concept, but I don't think that's necessarily in relation to this motion.
Well, maybe it can give the comfort to some of the people that are listening that we are looking for it, and there is someone batting for it. And
well, I think that's the purpose of it. And if when you finish speaking, I might just take the microphone as well to make my comments. But if you've got anything further, Councillor Pentridge, Councillor Harris, if you could. Oh, sorry, Councillor Kai, sorry, apologies.
I would like to speak.
Sorry, my apologies.
It might be something that we should be talking about in 2 weeks' time, but first I heard of this was actually last Thursday at council workshop, and I've lost sleep all week because I thought I didn't catch on to something that happened and I weren't told of it. So this is another one of those where I felt like I've been chucked under the bus. So I've spent the week researching, looking through what I've missed and what I didn't understand and why everyone else seems to know about it and I didn't. So I've gone through all my workshop notes, and I found that the last time we talked about rates modelling was on the workshop on May the 21st, and I've gone through all my screens and things, and I remember that day I fought to have the rates kept at 4.9% increase instead of the 5.9% increase, which was recommended. So to me, I thought everything was going to be at the 4.9% increase. And looking through all this and all my notes, I've noticed that on the 18th of June, we did approve at the special meeting the 5.1033 increase to 7.225. Now, honest truth, I didn't understand what that meant at all, because I feel like this is very specialised, complicated, and I feel like someone who needs accounting skills could understand that, because honest truth, I didn't understand that. So even though it's only a 2 cents in a dollar increase with the AAV, I had no idea that it worked out to be the 40%. So I've gone through all my notes, and to me, the 40%, I feel like I only just found out about it on the 30th of July when we got the in the doc on tap with the rates change in category weighting. I feel like that's the first time I've heard of the 40%, where I've read it out of all the notes that we've done, and something like this, like Councillor Pentridge said, it's a lot for someone to just cough up whatever the difference in that 40% is. I don't know if this is the right time to talk about it, but I feel like I do need to talk about it, because as Councillor Priest knows, I've been ringing her up saying, I'm losing sleep over this. I can't work out. I don't understand. And when I finally sort of understood it, I felt like this wasn't really properly tabled to the councillors to actually understand this difference between the 5.1 to a 7.1. And I feel also the same as Councillor Pentridge in that sense, that maybe we should give this 12 months to look through it, to understand it a little bit more. And if there is a question, the question I wanted to ask is, was it tabled around the workshops or around the councillors where we could actually understand it? Because really, it's taken me a whole week just to get my head around this. And I feel like when I fought to have the rates kept at 4.9 instead of the 5.9 in that rates modelling workshop on the 21st of May, I thought I was keeping the rates down for everybody, as in like everyone. So now I'm looking at this thinking, is it because we couldn't get the 5.9% that council wanted, because I fought to keep it at 4.9, now that we've got to try and find revenues from somewhere else to make up what the council needed to cover all the cost of all the projects that we are doing. So it's been playing in my mind. I'm thinking to myself, is it my fault that if we actually went with the 5.9 increase back when we talked about it on the 21st of May, this might not have happened?
No, it's not good. Is that a question? Because I might get executive
it's
leader
just playing
to
on my
give you a
mind
response.
that I feel like this is my fault. So if I didn't fight for the 4.9 back then, this wouldn't have happened.
It's not your fault, Councillor Kai. It's all of we made the decision, not just you. So just be aware that's not the case, but I might just get a response from the executive leader to that.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, Councillor Pentridge, it's not appropriate.
Thanks, Councillor Cole. There's a lot in that question. I'll address most of it in a fortnight's time. To answer at a really high level, though, the 4.9% increase to rates, that's to the total rating revenue. So that's the amount of revenue that we're seeking to increase the total budget by. The way we go about that differs between the different type of property. So by increasing primary production to the same rate as commercial and industrial, what that did was it meant that some residential ratepayers and some commercial ratepayers, for example, their rates would have gone up proportionately less. So, as I said, there's a lot in your question. I do want to address it all in writing and make sure that we've got everything on the record, and I think in a fortnight's time, that's the best way to do that.
Thank you. So you've got all the questions I've asked that
The governance team would have minuted that and will address that. But what I'll seek to do is actually address it as part of the response to Councillor Harris's motion.
Thank you.
Councillor Britton?
I won't do what I was going to do because I think Alan would like to finish. But I will just say, Councillor Pentridge, you are incredibly wrong, I believe, in what you said. The simple fact that we're here talking about this at the moment. Councillor Harris's motion, this is all because we have all made this mistake, and this is us doing something for these people. So I'm not really sure where that came from.
Okay, if you just take the...
Yep. Thank you. Deputy Mayor, you wish to speak?
Given I am the accountant, I missed it as well, and I appreciate the comments that have been made, is that we do have properties that are given us examples, I think, which is where we came, and I think the one that we looked at, I think had a 2,000 rate to 2,600, which didn't on the surface sort of spark any things in my mind. So I think the reality of it is just the magnitude of it, which I'm, since we've received responses, I wasn't acutely aware of that, and I was also under the misunderstanding that there was a 20% cap across the rating base, where it's actually only across the residential rate. So that's where some of that confusion's come in. I think the motion that's been put forward now will get further information for all of us to actually have better informed decision on what we're going to make in a fortnight's time. So taking into account Councillor Kai, Councillor Pentridge, and everybody's got different views on this. Let's get the facts, get the information in front of us so that we can actually make the best decision that we can in relation to this. But I also note that we've all been impacted by people approaching us, and I've also read people online who are commercial and industrial things saying about time. So there's counter arguments to all sorts of things. To me, it's the magnitude and the impact. If I was sitting there receiving a rates bill of 40% more, yeah, I'd be worried. I'd be upset because I hadn't seen it, and I didn't see it coming. So that's the purpose of what this motion is to give us the information and the facts so that we can actually go forward and make a more informed decision than perhaps we did when we made the last one. So that's all I've got to say. So I'll
Thank you very much. I'll hand the meeting back to you, Deputy Mayor.
Certainly a question, Councillor Kai.
Yes, so if we are going to make it so that they're all the same, the commercial, industrial and primary is going to be all the same in the weighting, then why would we actually need different categories then? But to me, I thought having the different categories means that we can actually have lower rates for some who are not making as much money as the ones who are making more. So that was the whole purpose of having the different categories. So if we're just going to turn it all into the one category, then I don't see the purpose of having actually categories.
So the issue there would be if you just had one general rate for every single property, you could have a business next to somebody's residence and they're going to be paying the same rates. Now, again, the theory behind this equalisation was that commercial, industrial, primary production generate income and it would be a deductible business expense, notwithstanding the fact that there are some hobby farms that are probably more appropriately classified as residential properties. There's a process to go through with that, and we'll work with those affected ratepayers to actually do that. But you run the risk of having one general rate that you've got mums and dads next to business owners, and they're going to be paying the same amount of rates, whereas you could argue, as I said, that those businesses, such as commercial, industrial and primary production, given it's a tax deduction or a business expense deduction, their rates, they should be paying more. But that is a policy decision, and ultimately that does come to councillors to make that decision every single year.
So thanks for the question. I'll get that. We'll get that addressed as part of the report as well, Councillor Kai.
Thank you.
Any other comment? Question mark? Question?
One more question. If the leader could just outline if someone is, struggling with the amount on their rates bill, what steps can they take?
I will just start that the first instalment is due at the end of this month, so this report will come back before that. So hopefully there is a little bit more clarity on that. We've received some responses through our customer service team from primary production ratepayers, and we've advised them that the matter is still under consideration from council, which it is today. We'll certainly be cognizant of that come the 31st of August if this matter isn't formally resolved. It is still undergoing some consideration as well.
You want a question? Sure. So any other questions out there? If not, Councillor Harris, question, and then you can finalise the
Thank you.
motion.
Just a question for you from the officer, probably. At the moment, people who have been rated primary production have paid a lower rates. Some of those will now say, well, actually, I'm really just living on my hobby farm, therefore I want to now be treated as a residential and get access not to the one that I can deduct from it. If they commence that action today or this week or this month, how does council adjust or otherwise that change of category with the current rates? Does it apply back to the 1st of July this year, or perhaps only apply from the 1st of July next year? And do you have any indication of the timeline such a reclassification by the State Valuer General's office might take?
It's not a quick process to answer your question. It does go through the Office of the Valuer General, who provide that information to us. However, we receive a listing of those objections, which comes through to us. So we would seek to backdate it to the date that it is submitted. Again, I'll detail some of the steps in the report in a fortnight's time, but you're quite right that previously primary production was paying a lower rate in the dollar than residential properties. So the incentive for those hobby farmers to change their property type over to residential has not been there because their rates have been less. Now I would suggest that those properties which are mainly residential use, so they're currently classified as primary production, they've certainly got an incentive to go through that process with the Office of the Valuer General.
And just finally, do they approach us as council to gain access to that thing, or do they go straight to the Office of the Valuer General?
Straight to the Office of the Valuer General, who then, once they've conducted their assessment of that property, if it is a primary production property or if it is to be reclassified as residential, that information then flows through to us as a matter of business, matter of usual business.
End of their assessment, I take it.
That's right.
Okay,
yes.
so if someone today were to approach, they should approach the Office of the Valuer General, start the process, but probably talk to our council staff to say, I've started this process, so that we're aware as well before we get the final outcome from however long the Valuer General takes.
Yeah, yes, that's right. And what I'll have prepared in part of the report next week is actually very detailed steps involved in that process as well. So I believe the way the process works is once somebody makes that submission to the Valuer General, we are notified of that. So there'll be a pause on follow-through of collection of rates once that process is completed.
That was the point I was trying to figure out, whether in fact there could be a loop that stays open for a long time. So finally, to wrap this up, I do thank every councillor for their comments, and yes, like everyone else, I missed it. For that I am sorry, and we all are to a degree, but we live and learn, and how we respond to that is really what the council is about. And I think we have done through this process. We will come back with a report for us to make an informed decision so that we can understand where we're at. But I will probably finish up by saying that if you are thinking that your property as a hobby farm is not really a primary production, perhaps more residential, perhaps they should start that process sooner rather than later with the Valuer General's office. I look forward to the support of the table for this motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Harris. We'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's all councillors present. Thank you very much, and thank you for the motion, Councillor Harris. Right, we're now coming to the end of the actual meeting, I think. We're going, yeah, exactly, the sort of the open meeting. So we'll now look to move into close. We might just have a brief break. We'll close the normal meeting. We might just have a 5-minute comfort stop.